I've been kind of sad lately when it comes to the gaming industry.
Okay.
And not because it's had a lack of games in the last year.
Okay.
In the last year, if anything could be said about 2018 in terms of gaming, is that single player games, heavy narrative driven, super AAA narrative driven games are certainly not dead, and they certainly are just getting more and more incredible. God of War, I just finished Spider-Man, and god damn it, that freaking game is so freaking fun. I've never played a superhero game and had so much fun playing as a superhero, because usually superhero games kind of suck. Besides the Arkham games. Like, I can only think of the Arkham Batman games that it's, you know...
And Superman 64, obviously. That was one of the great classics.
Of course.
Where
Classic.
you can be damaged. Any Superman game where you can be damaged by normal bullets is just good.
So, yeah, I was just... man, and then Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh, my God. I can't believe... When I was playing the game, I was like, I can't believe I'm actually playing a game like this with so much attention to detail. Like, literally, I didn't have any glitches. None whatsoever. The nuance, the after missions, you have this moment where you're all just in camp, and your only goal is just to hang out with your friends, and every single line of dialogue is different, and it's so much attention to detail, and it's just incredible. But the reason why I'm sad...
I would love a simulation where I had friends.
Well, play some Red Dead Redemption 2.
That would really be an improvement over my real life. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But why I'm sad is that my two favorite companies have fallen so far off the deep end that I don't know if there's going to be a chance for them to climb out of this mess. One is Fallout 76, Bethesda. Oh my God.
I thought you were talking about Brazzers and Bang Bus. But we can come back to those and talk about the ones you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'm talking about video games right now. We'll talk about that in the next episode.
Okay.
Bethesda. Yeah, Bethesda just...
Did you buy... Okay, let me ask you this. Did you buy Fallout 76?
No, I wasn't going to buy it anyway, because I'm a strictly single-player experience, narrative-driven dude, because, again, I have limited time to play video games. That's what I like. That's what I love. Those are the games I'm interested in. You dabble in the online world, so you can... This is why I wanted to get your opinion on what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling about this.
I dabble, yes.
Yeah.
I dabble.
Bethesda has just gone downhill, and then Anthem, BioWare's latest game, just was fully released, I guess. They had a staggered release, apparently. And both of these games had the idea of chasing the live service, kind of Destiny, Fortnite kind of thing, shoot and loot kind of stuff.
Okay.
And here I am thinking to myself, number one, Bethesda, your things are Fallout and Skyrim. You make those games, even the ones that critically haven't been the best. Like, you don't like Fallout 4. I love Fallout 4. I thought it was... I didn't mind it. I have played it several times. So that means I rather enjoy the game.
I think we just came up with what our next video will be about, because I could probably talk for 3 hours on how much Fallout 4 sucks, and you're more than welcome to chime in and try to defend it. I didn't see anything that, like, Fallout 76, everybody was like, oh man, it's boring and stuff like that, and I was like, that they carried that over from that other game that everyone loved for some reason. That was super boring.
The reason why, it was an interesting storyline. And the branching paths and the, like, classic Western RPG kind of stuff. That's the reason why people buy those games. That's why. Look, Elder Scrolls put Western RPG on the map. The Witcher 3 came out and said, I see ya, but we're going to do this. I see ya, we're going to make it awesome. And they did. And so... Anyway, so Anthem comes out in a staggered release, which is it doesn't get good reviews. I think it's got a 60 on Metacritic right now, a 4.5 on the user score or something. The lowest rated BioWare game or EA game that's been released. And it's sad. It's sad because BioWare created Knights of Old Republic. They created Baldur's Gate. They created freaking Jade Empire. Oh my God, great game that no one talks about, but Jade Empire is also fucking fantastic game.
Do you think, okay, this may not, I don't want to get, if we get off topic with this and you don't want to, please tell me, but some people say, like, why are we loyal to companies when, say, like, there's probably very few people that are working at BioWare that worked on Baldur's Gate 2, right? Like, you have that same idea with, like, a football team.
That's a good point.
5 years later, it's all new people, but you're still a fan of the football team. But you're not really a fan of those Super Bowl winning football team. You're a fan of, like, these new guys that aren't. So I don't know, like...
That's a very good point.
I wish there was, like, an ideal that was so good that we could be like, you know what, we're BioWare, we have to. But, like, the people that thought that may have kind of been phased out. If that makes any sense. Yeah,
and again, another reason why I'm sad, because I just want them to keep creating brilliant games like, the original Dragon Age. Oh my God, incredible game, incredible single player experience, branching pathways, great role playing game, fantastic. Paved the way for CD Projekt Red to come in and it's like, again, I see you, I'm inspired, but we're gonna make it better. We're gonna improve on the things that could be improved on, and they did.
Yeah, I love it when that happens. I love it when somebody trusts another studio with their, like, I guess, child,
Yeah.
And I think one of the, every now and then I still go back and play, like, Doom 2016 because it was such a success on every level with something that shouldn't have been, like, everybody should have, like, thought of it with the same broken nostalgia that we think of, like, new Disney movies, and we're just like, why would they bother? Why would they, what are you going to make that's new out of Doom? And they just did an absolutely brilliant job. So I know it's possible. And that's what makes me all the more upset, because I know, like, it's possible to exceed my expectations, but most people don't, I guess. And it makes me sad too. It does make me sad.
And so, like, it makes me sad that these both of these companies who tried to chase the Destiny sort of map just failed miserably. And what's probably going to happen is the big wigs, the people in the suits, all the investors are going to look at this company and be like, well, you failed at something. You really, your first time doing something out of the box. Well, guess what? We're going to pull the plug, especially with BioWare. Ever since Mass Effect Andromeda, their stock has plummeted. Well, not plummeted, but just slowly, just like, and then, oh, we're going to make Anthem. Oh yeah, let's put all our cards in this thing we've never done before. And let's hope it sticks. And it obviously at this point didn't. Now it's a live service and they can improve on it over time. But EA has a reputation of, you know what? If you're not successful right out of the gate, boom, you're cut. See you, bye. And Dragon Age 4, we're not going to let you touch that with your Mass Effect Andromeda dirtied hands. We're going to just cut and run. We're going to concentrate on FIFA 2021.
Yeah, that's it. I agree that it's sad, and I think it's as you were talking about what a great year it was for certain games, coming out of certain studios. I mean, of the series we've talked about, I feel like God of War. I'm trying to remember if God of War is more recent than Red Dead Redemption series. I think it is. Whatever, Red Dead Revolver.
I think God of War came out the beginning of the year.
Those set pieces, and this is why I want to get, my wife wants to get a PS4 because our PS3 controller broke. You can't buy a new one, and she doesn't want to stand up to change the channel. I want to get a PS4 because of God of War 4. That they're doing that, like, it's like a movie, but it's a game, and it's really, it's like And God of War was just such a could do no wrong set piece of, like, fight people, solve a puzzle, fight people, solve a puzzle, do really cool, like, effects with this 2D 3D interplay, They could. I feel like they could have just kept churning out games forever that were that formula. But the fact that they like tried something else says a lot about Santa Monica Studios, or again, whoever they are now. I don't know. Like we talk about all those, and then I wonder, like, is our theme today? Is the question we're gonna ask today? Is single player like a viable? Is it gonna survive? And I look at games like that and Spider-Man and everything else and just think like, well, yeah, even if it's not my favorite studios that put out the cool games, like somebody's going to.
Yeah.
Right?
I hope so, because it takes a lot of money to do that. It takes a lot of money to create a game, and a lot of
a prohibitively
trust.
large amount. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of trust in all these investors, and that's the major freaking problem, is that investors get scared if you have this grand idea. Like, I could imagine that the guy who had this idea for this new direction for God of War, I bet you he was scared to death in every single meeting he was in with all those investors and all the bigwigs that were
like, let's make it like the new Tomb Raider, and they were like, what? The Last of Us. And they were like, what?
The Last of Us? That's only a one-time thing. We can't continue to pile on microtransactions onto things like that. That's the new wave of the future, and I need to get a new Bentley and a new yacht. Damn it.
Oh, yeah. And it's have you ever seen that? There's a really good interview with Frank Zappa where he talks it's about 5 minutes long. It's pretty easy to find on YouTube. And he talks about the old school record producers versus the new school. And he said the older guys were actually easy to work with because they didn't know anything about music at all. Like, they were just like, I don't know, if you say it sounds good, I guess that's fine. So they said we're gonna and I mean, Frank Zappa is obviously like on the more innovative side, and so they're throwing money at these they're throwing money at these like chance artists and wondering, and they say, everybody try, and whoever makes it'll make it. Whoever makes this money will keep making money. That's fine. But he said then the new crop, the younger guys, become A&R reps and then record producers, and they say, we know what good music sounds like. That's that's the difference, is they have in their minds already this kind of box that good music is in.
They started trying to build a formula. They're like, okay, I just watched Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. Great movie. It's fucking fantastic. Great movie. A lot of people think it's like, it's not true to how Freddie Mercury was. I don't care. It was a great movie, great story. And, it's great. But there's this moment where, they're trying to say, we want Bohemian Rhapsody to be the hit, the next single. And Bohemian Rhapsody is 6 minutes long. Oh, no. Yeah. And, they gave him a hard time. They're like, hey, it's 3 minutes. That's 3 minutes.
That's how our song is, yeah.
You got to do 3 minutes. Let's try, what was the other single that they wanted to do instead?
Killer Queen or something?
It wasn't. That was after Killer Queen. So, Anyway, but it's sort of the same thing where, you'll have a guy like, who says, look, I want to take...
these are the rules, okay?
Yeah.
You can't break the rules. They're rules, yeah.
Yeah, these, God of War director comes out and says, hey, I want to take God of War in this direction. I have this grand plan. It's going to be risky, but if we pull it off, it's going to be one of the best games that's ever been made. I'm sure a lot of directors say that. But in his case, it was right. When that game came out, everyone was like, holy shit. Like, people who don't even play video games. It was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was like, I guess young Jamie or someone showed him, hey, have you seen God of War? And Joe was like, no, I don't play video games anymore, bro. And then they showed it showed just cutscenes of God of War. And Joe was like, holy shit, this is incredible.
That's how like, when people that don't play video games jump onto something. Like, I don't know anyone that doesn't know who Fortnite, like what Fortnite is. And that includes like my grandparents and parents. And they think that Nintendo is the only thing that's been a console. Like, anything that they would see, even this computer, they'd be like, oh, hey, it's your Nintendo, right? So
that's how you've made it as a company. If every video game system after your system, they just say, that's your Nintendo, right?
Maybe so. And I feel like maybe there might be more of that than there used to be, in terms of like, back in the day, it was like non-video game. Like, I wonder if we could track like what non-video gamers know about video games and see if they I mean, I feel like there's fewer non-video gamers now to begin with. But like, there's also more knowledge that is leaked, right? That is like leaked out of the nerd balloon and seeped into the real world.
Yeah,
video games aren't just about Mario and Peach, right? There's like a whole pantheon.
No, man. You can
of
tell
newcomers.
you can tell fantastic, great stories via video games. It's even better because now you're living vicariously through the character, or you can create your own character and live out your own story.
Where friends come to your campground, right?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
The ultimate fantasy.
So to back on topic, I'm worried. I'm worried that more and more suits people who have the real power and the real money and the real direction where they want their company to go are going to just consistently stamp out these risk-taking ventures such as God of War or, hell, Spider-Man. You know, like, how often... It's very rare that you get a superhero game that is incredible. Batman Arkham showed the way. They're like, hey, this is how you make a freaking superhero game. And even then, you know, you got some, you know, superhero games that came after that tried to sort of emulate it, but didn't have enough resources or didn't take care of it or whatever. And it came out and it flopped, whatever. And so I imagine having the same idea as like, hey, let's make a Spider-Man game that's open world, that's got sort of like a role-playing game element to it, it's heavy story-driven, and we're going to basically make it another Marvel movie. And that's exactly how it feels. The whole game feels like you're playing a Spider-Man Marvel movie at the freaking theater. It's incredible. But again, pitching that, you know, you got to be really good at your pitch.
You think as time goes by, it's going to be harder and harder to get those innovative messages across. Right.
Because I think the people in the suits will go, "Oh, Fortnite. That we can monetize that forever."
They just want to find cows. They want to find cows that they can milk until it's like, that's your worry, right? Is that they're just all they're gonna see from Spider-Man, you know, is dollar signs, is like you know, what's the one element that we can copy and stick into our game, and that be good,
right?
And I do want to caution and say that's not always a bad thing necessarily. Like sometimes there's kind of like iterative competition, and like all of a sudden somebody figures out that like games are more fun in multiplayer when the ammo and the weapons are in different places, so you can't camp, right? And then everybody does it from then on. It's almost like those rules you talked about are still being written through these games that do make it and these games that do. But I think it's easy to look at the crap and think like the future could either have more good things or more crap. More crap seems more likely, if that makes any sense. But I did have in preparation for this, I was thinking of just what like some things that single player games have that multiplayer games don't, and why I think maybe if you're sad, maybe I can cheer you up by telling you some reasons why I think the single player games will never die, and there'll always be a demand for something good. There may not always be something good every single year, but there will always be a demand for something good for these reasons. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a great point, because you're right. I know I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people out there. They're like, what? You know, they look at Anthem and like, why are you even doing this? Why are you even doing a live service anyway? Just make the next freaking Dragon Age. Try to jump back on the horse. Mass Effect Andromeda, yeah, that was a dud. Just, you know, learn from your mistakes and, you know, go for broke. Make Dragon Age 4 better than better than your competition, which is going to be freaking Cyberpunk 2077. You know, you gotta, and again, CD Projekt Red, they're like, dude, we got this.
Shane, if you get your hopes up too high, I mean, someday they're gonna pull a BioWare, they're gonna pull a Blizzard, they're gonna pull a, you know.
That is true because
they'll all be owned by EA at this point. I mean,
and again, I think right, yeah. Again, I think that's an inevitability with any company. You grow and grow and grow and grow, and all of a sudden you start, you're surrounding yourself with all these investors that are pouring money into you, and now all these different people who are giving you money to make your next game, now they have a say financially. And if they don't like your idea, they'll go, no, I'm not going to give you my $100 million. I'm not going to do it because I don't like that idea. What you should do instead is try to monetize it somehow so you can pay the investors back. And God, that just fucking, I feel
it's bad. Yeah,
that's
bad.
Very bad. But what's funny? It's not funny, but do you know who Amy Hennig is? Amy Hennig is the co-creator of Uncharted, and she was just at a DICE summit in Las Vegas recently, and she actually had a conversation about single-player games. And if anyone's played Uncharted, which I haven't, but
they're good, man.
See, all of my friends are like, dude, you got to play Uncharted.
That was a very early entry into the movie that's a video game kind of like role, and they're really cool.
And so another thing that made me sad was EA canned, effectively, a single-player, narrative-driven experience that was being created by Amy Hennig. So people were saying, oh, badass, freaking Uncharted-style freaking Star Wars game? Are you kidding me? Sign me up. And, that was announced, 5 years ago, something like that. And people were excited, and we didn't hear much from it. And then EA just pulled the plug. Just like, not want to do it. And I think she retired after that point. And then I think they completely shut the studio down after that. The studio that was actually making the game. Again, adding to my fear that, again, I've been screaming at EA. It's like, guys, you have Star Wars. You have the license for fucking Star Wars. One of the best if not the best franchise, filled with all these different things that you could do, like all this story in the universe. Like there's so many things, and you just can't freaking figure it out. You can't figure it out. You just can't. Like what's the problem? Anyway, so she was at a DICE summit, and she said. I'm going to read this real quick. Okay. She said, contrary to what you may think, Hennig doesn't believe single-player games are going to go extinct. They're just evolving. Evolving. I don't think, quote, I don't think anybody would say single-player is dead. Look at the current crop of games. It's just a harder and harder proposition, kind of what we've been talking about. What this means in practice is that the sort of game that the original Uncharted was can't exist today. The first Uncharted was a short, single-player only game with a story campaign. Once you finished the story, there wasn't much else for you to do. Now you have a lot of hours of gameplay. 8 would never cut it. Usually some sort of online mode. And of course, you see where things are pushing toward live services and battle royale and games as a service. All of those things. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they play less nicely with story. They're less conducive to traditional storytelling. That has a shape and an arc and a destination, an end. A game that is a live service that continues does not. Uncharted 2 and 3 both featured online multiplayer modes. Though these modes were first viewed as tacked on, they endured and cultivated a fan base that kept them going for years post-launch. They may never have reached mainstream audience in the way a multiplayer shooter would, but their existence justified the investment that went into single player. Now, the veteran writer and game director also pointed that games like God of War, Spider-Man, and even Red Dead Redemption 2 are all much longer than the single-player games she used to make. Yes, you can look at Spider-Man and Red Dead and God of War, and they're deeply narrative, but they're also really long. There's also an understanding that a lot of people may never finish it. they'll only play the first part of the game. As a writer, going into it with that understanding, as Hennig puts it, makes me crazy as a storyteller. The length and complexity and the layers that are in these games now, submissions, skill trees, all these things that are great, I'm not saying we shouldn't have them, but it makes it harder. It's harder to tell a single-player narrative-focused game. All right.
That's a very good point, and I think on almost every level, the introduction of multiplayer takes away from that kind of like storyline arc. If you picture like when you're in town and you're waiting, and somebody like you can look out and tell who the computer NPCs are, because all the humans are like jumping in place. Jumping and like standing on top of people, and then they go on a roof or something and just blah blah blah, like really like a bunch of toddlers. Okay, it's not exactly helping your immersion of the game at all. And this is why I say like there's only one chosen one, right? I mean, like Star Wars Galaxies and Fallout 76, they both kind of wanted people to be NPCs, but people don't want to be NPCs. They don't want to they want to go and do the fun thing instead of do the like standing around or like bartering or any kind of like nonsense like that. And even the Elder Scrolls Online had the problem of like when you were there and you were actually in line like behind like 3 people to turn in a quest, and so the old man is like, you and you alone are the only one that can save us from the darkness, and then the next person comes up, you and you alone are the only one. I mean, do you see what I'm saying about how it like takes away from like really kind of like sex, just like I gotta share this experience, and I also like what she said about how like sometimes now the length of a game will kind of more justify it, but I don't like ranking games based on how long they take to complete, because some games take 300 hours and they go by just like that because they're so fun. And some games are like a one-time shot. You can beat it in like 2 nights. I actually like games that are short because I have stuff to do, right? That's also important. I can't get to the mid-game where they padded this length and they made you cross this huge field every time you need to get somewhere. I can't, I also really like... and we've talked about this before, that like you and me play games so that we can win and have that feeling of overcoming something. And the way matchmaking is now is a lot different than it was when we were kids. When we were kids, we could play Halo, and like I wasn't good, but I was good enough that I consistently beat up on all these other noobs, and that was fun to me, was going online and killing people. Well, matchmaking now is so perfect, like the algorithms they use make it so that you will lose exactly 50% of your matches. You're always going to get seated with someone that's as good as you, so you're always going to lose 50% of the time, right? And I'm like, what's more fun than losing 50% of the time? When I play single player and I lose 0% of the time, right? Like that's part of it for me, and that's even there are a huge amount of StarCraft players. I can't remember the exact number. I don't remember if it was like more than half that never touch. Like StarCraft, we always think of as a multiplayer game, but they played it just for the single player campaign. They were done. They had no reason to hop onto like a really stress-filled experience of playing online and having something tell you how good you are at this, beyond beating somebody. There was the biggest, I think, hurdle, though, and I think she talked a little bit about this, and how video games as a service, right? Video games as a service as opposed to video games as a product. People, those investors, those suits look and they say, if a video game is a product, we can only charge people money for it one time. And once they have it, they own all of it, right? And that's what I like, is owning all of it. But I want to kind of walk you through like how expensive multiplayer gaming really is, because you have to buy the game, obviously. You pay the subscription fee, so it doesn't matter what it is, if it's WoW, if it's Xbox Live, whatever. You play that monthly. You have to have fast, reliable internet, okay? Otherwise, people are going to yell at you the whole time for dropping out. If your little brother wants to play, you have to buy a controller, and those are like $70 now, right? And so you get all this stuff, you spend all this money, you finally sit down and you're ready to play. Oh, whoops. that was the game that was popular last year. Everybody's moved on to this other game, and so you need to buy a new system and a new game. And if you want to play the old game, too bad, because not only is no one there, no one's supporting it anymore. Like, they don't have a server that's running the game anymore.
Right.
And the ironic thing is, like, the more money I'm spending to share this game with other people, the less ownership I feel in what I have. Like, I wanted to buy the game and play it, but now all of my fun is determined by actions from other people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's why I don't think that the system that we have of video games as a service is fair. Like, when you buy FIFA, you're not really buying it. You're renting it for a year, because then the next FIFA is going to come out and you got to buy that one, right?
Yep.
I mean, so, that kind of like concept of ownership, that like, there's other pieces of art where I get to view them as many times as I want. I have a movie, I can watch it as many times as I want. But all of a sudden you say I should pay to rent this like experience.
So I get what you're touching on is something that I wanted to ask you. Is there a way to convince the suits, the investors, the people that want to get more into this live service? Because that, if you're charging people monthly for a game, that's better than charging people one time for a game, obviously. So is there a way to convince people that this risk of a strong narrative-driven single-player experience is not as risky as the multiplayer, live service kind of thing? Is there a way? Now,
yes,
I don't know if that's true or not.
I said earlier that there will always be a demand for everything I described is something that people want and people like, the game that they can own and they can have and they can, go back to. I love playing old games, just for the fun of it. Yeah. That's what people want, right? You have a demand, and you have some people that aren't making games and therefore aren't making money, so the supply follows. Like, they're kind of like two blades of a pair of scissors that's cutting a piece of paper. Like, that's kind of the pull. And I mean, people have been saying that single player video games are going to die for like 20 years.
That's true.
That single player games are extinct, but except for the ones that came out this year, because they were all good, right?
Yeah, right.
So what I see happening is, like, they're going to try to make a bunch of crappy subscription only stuff. People aren't going to buy it, or a few people are going to buy it, but not a lot. And then they're going to make something good, right? Think of how many people bought Fallout 76 versus how many people bought Skyrim even years after the game came out, because everybody just couldn't shut up about how amazing it was.
I mean, people continue to buy. I think I bought 3 different copies: Xbox 360 version, the PS4 version, and I would get a Nintendo Switch version if I had a Switch. Dude, I would totally buy it.
Shane, I don't even have a VR headset, and I have Skyrim VR. I own it. Okay,
you own it. Wow, that's great.
Yeah. That's
Dude, have you tried VR ever?
I'm saving up to get. I'm gonna get an Oculus Rift here pretty soon.
This is kind of off subject, but I was just at my buddy Soren's house, and I tried VR for the first time.
Did it change your life?
It changed my life. Like, it really did. And then PSVR is apparently not the good version. It's still kind of blocky, and it's not. But still, I was so immersed. I was like, I'm really impressed by how my entire body felt like I was in this world.
I just really want to be able to. I like the virtual desktop, so it's like you're in an office, but you can make the screen as big as you want. Because I like how I think I need more screens. I don't have enough screens. Yeah. So I really want. I really want to tack those on. Anyway, so I'll get an Oculus Rift. I'll let you know how it goes, but I'll definitely play Skyrim VR.
Dude,
that's definitely.
Let me know how that goes.
Yeah.
That's something that I would definitely do for sure. That's, and I don't know. We've talked about it for a good while. And I have hope. I do have hope. At the end of the day, I do have hope that, like you said, there's always going to be a demand for good single-player experiences. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, that's not a game. And it's a cliche, I know. It's those movies, it's like, this is not a movie. It's an experience.
Yeah.
But seriously, Red Dead Redemption 2 is not a video game. It's not. It's a fucking experience. If you want to experience how to live life as a fucking cowboy, play that game. play that game. It's in it's just I can't the words can't even come out my mouth like how incredible that game is. Same with Spider-Man.
I can't wait to role play a bald guy with a beard and play God of War.
Hey, maybe
I'm really
are
stoked.
Maybe we're all simulations. Someone's playing you right now. Simulation.
There's
theory,
actually
bro.
there's some theories on that, Shane. I'm glad you brought that up, and I know you are too right now. But that like we can make, we ourselves can make a simulation, but it's impossible for us to make a simulation of like things that know that we're like that we exist, right? Like we can't simulate our own environment. We don't have the technology to make like atomic level, perfection when it comes to like graphics or anything like that. Does it make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So what that means is that we will never develop the technology to know if we ourselves are in a simulation. So we're either not in one or we'll never know if we are.
That kind of sucks. But again, maybe that's good. Maybe that's you don't want to know that you're a simulation or not. It's like knowing when you're gonna die. It's like, do you really want to know when you're gonna die? Like if some like old man seer, like with the hood and the beard, and he comes out and he's like, Evan McKee,
September 27th. Yeah.
Yeah.
You and you alone are the one that will save us from this darkness.
You will experience darkness on the eve of 21st of September, 2038.
Yeah.
We're getting back into Game of Thrones, so I'm like,
are you?
I'm
Dude,
really excited.